Coming up on Carolina News Now.
We asked the Panthers to keep pounding steel, and instead they chose to pound sand.
A new Carolina Panthers headquarters, not in South Carolina, a bird's eye view of the construction left behind, and what happens next. Plus,
Mr. Brown is not that kind of person. Mr. Brown is a loving man.
A person shot inside of a wax museum in Myrtle Beach. Why the suspected shooter says he thought the gun was a prop. And a grandmother in South Carolina drums up a social media following.
And it just went bonkers and just, had hundreds of thousands of views.
Hear who inspired her to start a TikTok account and her newest celebrity client. Hey there, I'm Maddie Gardner. Welcome to Carolina News Now. We are here to get you caught up on stories from both North and South Carolina. We are powered by television stations in both states, and we have a great lineup for you this evening. So we're going to start here with a story that affects both Carolinas. This is about the future of the Carolina Panthers headquarters and practice facility, because right now it's up in the air. So this is what the $800 million HQ is supposed to look like. Here's what it looks like now, an aerial view here. This week, David Tepper's real estate company terminated their agreement with Rock Hill, South Carolina. That is the city where the project was being built. So as you can see from the sky, this is a partially built structure at this point. So what happened? There's a lot to break down here between finances promised, what was delivered, and a bit of he said, they said. So we're going to turn to Morgan Newell for the very latest.
GT Real Estate, one of David Tepper's companies, has terminated its contract with the city of Rock Hill. The company says they issued the city a default notice on March 18th. This was before your county government voted on the resolution to offer the Panthers tax incentives to get the project back up and running. The default notice gave Rock Hill 30 days to issue the bonds agreed upon in the original contract. 30 days was up on Sunday, and the Panthers say they still did not have the bonds.
Everything's probably going to be back on the table, but we don't want to hold up any longer. We want to get the workers back, get the financing in place, and move this deal forward.
The city responded to this statement with one of its own. It says it's done everything in its power to issue the bonds, a statement they've maintained throughout this last month. The city says they are willing to work with the Panthers as early as today. At the end of the statement, GT Real Estate says it is willing to sit down with the city of Rock Hill and other parties involved to discuss the, quote, significant challenges ahead. Reporting in Rock Hill, Morgan Newell, WBTV, on your side.
And meteorologist Rachel Coulter is with us this evening. Rachel, thank you for being here. How's it going?
It's going pretty well, especially given our forecast. It's looking really nice.
Right. So we started off the week in the Carolinas pretty cool. What's ahead for the weekend?
So we're just warming up from here. So we had a couple of mornings in the 30s, only making it into the 60s in many portions of the Carolinas. We warmed up today, and then tomorrow we're going to be even warmer. So we're forecasting highs back in the 80s as we continue through your weekend. And that's going to be the case for much of the Carolinas. You can see this is your future rainfall and temperature forecast. I'm going to start this off 5 o'clock on Friday, just in case you have some plans tomorrow night. You can see temperatures at that point, 70s, 80s across the area. Mostly, if not completely dry, can't rule out a few sprinkles in our mountain communities, and that'll about do it. For your Friday, we're going to have a ridge of high pressure overhead, and what that means for your weekend forecast, so if you look at your screen, starting off very temporarily in the 50s on Saturday morning, especially for the Piedmont region, but quickly lifting into the 60s, even for our mountain communities, 70s already out towards the East Coast. Look at Wilmington at 71 at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday with dry conditions expected. And this is going to help those temperatures lift to around that 80-degree mark by the afternoon hours. We should still be there by the time we get to your evening plans, your dinner plans on Saturday night. And this trend continues even into your Sunday. So we're going to see mostly sunny skies to partly cloudy skies over the Carolinas, both North and South Carolina, from coast all the way to the mountains as we head through both days this weekend. So really nice temperatures ahead, Maddie.
I love that, Rachel. So while you're here, we actually have a story that I'd love your opinion on, because we're talking about the National Weather Service radar near Wilmington on the North Carolina coast. So can you explain a little bit what radar does and how it goes into your forecasting?
Yeah, it is super important, especially when we're tracking showers and storms, and we're talking about radar on the coastline. So think about hurricanes.
Right.
You got those hurricanes moving, and you want to be able to see where the bands of rain are. You want to see if there's any of those quick spin ups that can form sometimes with those tropical systems. And what they had with the National Weather Service radar that's out based in Charlotte is when they put it into formation there back in the 90s, I believe is when they had it there. Everything was fine. They didn't have any obstructions. And then over time, you know, as things go, trees just grew and grew. So some pine trees are now obstructing the radar. And what that can do, it almost like looks like you're taking a pie slice out of your radar view. And so you can't get data for wherever, because you've got a radar beam that scans everything, and that's what we get our information from, where the rain is, where the storms are, where winds, you know, what the winds are doing as well. And there's a pie slice just taken out right now.
Right. So because that pie slice is missing, the National Weather Service is relocating this radar from its current spot in Charlotte to somewhere else where maybe the pine trees aren't as bad. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this story, and for that we turn to Cassie Simmons.
30 years ago, this was the prime location for a weather radar, but now I'm told that towering pine trees are blocking the signal. It's a move years in the making. A National Weather Service warning coordination meteorologist tells us it's the result of an impact survey after finding the weather radar in Charlotte wasn't detecting everything it should.
And there's multiple scans up through the atmosphere that we're looking at, and those lowest scans are the ones being blocked by the trees.
That means things farther from the radar might not be so easily picked up, including devastating storms like hurricanes and tornadoes.
This is perfect timing to start this process of getting this from here to wherever point B is going to be.
However, when it's time to disassemble the radar and take it someplace else, our area will be without one for up to 2 months.
We would have coverage from the adjacent radars in Columbia, Charleston, Raleigh, and Morehead City to kind of help fill in that gap while that process is going on. And we're also told that there'd be no downtime during the hurricane season.
Those 6 to 8 weeks without the weather radar won't happen for a few years. I'm told first the National Weather Service has to find the perfect location for the new radar. In Charlotte, Cassie Simmons, WECT News.
And that was Cassie Simmons reporting for us from Charlotte. By the way, the move is expected to cost the National Weather Service about $5.5 million, and that's going to cover labor, those new parts, and the equipment needed to pull off the project. Well, a story that you might have seen on social media out of Myrtle Beach. New details about the man who police say fired 2 shots at an employee of a wax museum in Myrtle Beach. Maybe you've seen it if you've gone to vacation in Myrtle Beach before or you live around there. This happened over the weekend, but the suspect was in court this week, and a judge granted him a $25,000 bond. Ashley Bowles was at that hearing and explains what we learned in court.
While the defendant, Keel Brown, chose not to address the court today, both the victim, who we now know is an employee of the Hollywood Wax Museum, and the defendant's wife did address the court. A plethora of new details emerged Wednesday morning on a case the defendant's family says was a freak accident. Investigators say Keel Brown went with his family to the Hollywood Wax Museum on 21st Avenue North Saturday night. During a haunted house tour, the group was frightened, which caused a person to fall down. It was during that fall that a gun slid across the floor and hit Brown in the foot. Brown thought it was a prop, picked it up, and fired it twice, hitting an actor in the shoulder. Brown and his family left the museum. One of Brown's children told his dad the gun was real, but Brown allowed his 15-year-old son to keep the gun. That led to Brown's charge of contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
We apologize. We prayed, and I'm thankful that he is alive and well. But please understand that we are not that kind of people. Mr. Brown is not that kind of person. Mr. Brown is a loving man.
Myrtle Beach officers are still investigating and say that more charges are likely. They still don't know who the gun belongs to. If Brown is found guilty of his current charge, he could spend up to 3 years in prison. A judge also ordered Brown to have no contact with the victim or the victim's family. We asked both the victim in this case as well as Keel's wife to go on camera for us after the hearing ended, but they both declined to do so. In Myrtle Beach, Ashley Bowles, WMBF News.
And that was Ashley Bowles reporting for us from Myrtle Beach. Ashley, thank you so much. Stick around. We are going to take a short break, but much more is coming up on Carolina News Now. If you have a child who needs baby formula, you are probably feeling the impacts of a nationwide shortage. We speak to a family near Charleston, South Carolina, who is driving miles to find baby formula for their little one. Plus, new training to respond to coastal disasters in North Carolina. We're going to explain how helicopters are involved there, and you have to see this final story. And we introduce you to the godmother of drumming. If you're on TikTok, you already know who I'm talking about, but we have a up-close look at her drum set and who she is teaching drumming to. It's a celebrity client who might surprise you. We'll have Rachel Coulter back out here for another look at your weekend forecast in the Carolinas. That's all coming up when Carolina News Now returns in 45 seconds. And welcome back to Carolina News Now. If you are just joining us, we are getting you caught up on stories from both North and South Carolina, as well as a look at your regional weather forecast for the weekend. We are so glad you are joining us. You know, throughout the pandemic, we have heard a lot about supply chain issues, right? Empty store shelves, and the latest victim of the supply chain is baby formula. So Camry Silv has a report about a low country family near Charleston, South Carolina, who is scrambling to find what their baby needs and going to some pretty extreme lengths to get formula.
So I went from Somerville to James Island to Mount Pleasant, and it's basically like a scavenger hunt.
That's how mother of 4-month-old Mason describes the baby formula shortage. A recall back in February is now leaving families of little ones in desperate need and search for formula, especially those who require a specialized hypoallergenic formula.
I mean, you in and out of cars from city to city. I mean, you have to figure out, you do what you have to do because these babies need milk.
First-time mom Shakina Patterson White says she never imagined dealing with a formula shortage after having her baby girl Ava Simone. She says in the last few weeks, she's found herself standing in the middle of an empty aisle.
About a month ago, she was out of formula, had one bottle left, and we were completely done. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the Walmart neighborhood market, and went in there and was like, oh my God, there is no formula.
So let's just say you had a little one. How do you get help finding formula? Pediatricians say reach out to your baby's doctor. They may have some samples on hand or have loved ones pick up a can or two when they see them on shelves.
We have family members out on Johns Island who will FaceTime us in the store, and they'll be like, hey, is this the formula that Ava is on? And we'll be like, yeah, that's it. And so they will grab it for us.
Other routes moms have found helpful: social media and baby groups online, with moms offering to donate extra unused cans of formula.
We're out here, and I know a mom who knows a mom who knows a mom. Look out for another mom. If you got it, say, hey, I got 2 extra cans.
Experts say manufacturers are trying to keep up with their supply, but say it may take weeks to catch up. In North Charleston, Camry Silv, Live 5 News.
Camry, thank you so much. Now, the FDA and the American Academy of Pediatrics, they do warn families, parents, and caregivers from using their own makeshift or homemade baby formulas. They say that can really lead to some problems. And if you are struggling to find baby formula, they recommend you check with local food banks, pantries, your WIC offices, and smaller stores like pharmacies for those supplies. So we want to move now to the Carolina coast, to eastern North Carolina. Perhaps a few of you are planning vacations there this summer. You're probably not thinking of worst case scenario, but that is what emergency management and first responders are always thinking about. It is top of mind for them, and that is why this week multiple emergency response agencies in eastern North Carolina, they had a full-scale rescue training exercise. I'm talking helicopters flying over the water, so they learn how to respond to natural disasters like tsunamis and even extreme weather events. Derek Rush was there for that exercise, and he has a full report.
The view around Bear Island is a little different than what you typically see. So we've got 8 different aircraft here today that's participating in this exercise.
Though the helicopter aquatic rescue training exercise is for tsunami response, officials explain this type of training is important for any coastal disaster.
You can have different weather phenomenon that cause little rises of waves.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration meteorologist Eric Hayden explained the rescue tactics are especially beneficial for hurricane rescue.
And unfortunately, we're getting toward hurricane season. Water is our biggest risk. Not only is it around us, it's the biggest killer during tropical systems. A lot of people focus on wind. That's only related to the category of the storm, but we really should focus on water, either deaths from flash flooding or storm surge.
These same style rescues would be the same things that we used during Hurricane Florence just a very few years ago by actually aircraft pulling people out of flooded areas. In all my career, I'd never thought that we would ever do a rescue of survivors from a sailboat in the middle of Gum Branch Road.
With hurricane season forecasted to be more active than usual, 200 participants from multiple counties are making sure training is up to snuff.
We have to realize some of our coastlines are only a few feet above sea level, so a couple foot rise could cause some issues.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Derek Rush.
Derek, thank you so much. And scientists at Colorado State University, they forecast hurricane season for us, and they expect 19 named storms and 9 hurricanes in this year's forecast. Keep in mind, an average season usually has 14 named storms, around 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. And if you've lived in the Carolinas for a while, you know that we stick out into the ocean, so we often do get some of that severe weather. All right, we want to turn now to my favorite story of the week. Absolutely. She is called the godmother of drumming. She lives near Myrtle Beach. She has millions of followers on TikTok and on social media. She recently made an appearance on a national nightly talk show. She is not your typical social media sensation, though. Patrick Lloyd and photojournalist George Hansen are putting the spotlight on 71-year-old Dorothea Taylor. Stick around for the next 3 minutes or so because you just have to see this story.
And John Bonham.
From the upstairs room of her Forest Brook home, Dorothea Taylor marches to the beat of her own drum. The 71-year-old has been drumming for the last 58 years and counting. At age 17, she set out to play the drums with one goal.
I wanted to be a famous rock star. That was just my dream.
But just 2 years later, life changed her path.
Fell in love and got married and started having children, and that was kind of the end of the dream.
Instead of chasing fame, Dorothea spent more than 5 decades teaching the drums. But it was a suggestion from her 11-year-old grandson that catapulted her to fame. A TikTok account. She created one, and she couldn't believe what happened next.
I put one up, and it got pretty many views, and then I put up another, and it just went bonkers, and just, had hundreds of thousands of views. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I just kept putting some up.
Her videos quickly caught on. She currently has more than 360,000 followers on Instagram and over 1 million followers on TikTok. That dream she had more than 5 decades ago of becoming famous for her drumming skills finally became a reality.
What is it about, you and your videos that you think makes them go viral like they do?
Probably because I'm an old lady playing drums.
Her newfound fame has also led to a newfound nickname.
The godmother of drumming.
Dorothea also does all her own social media, and she acknowledges she's a lot more tech savvy than the majority of 71-year-olds.
Most people don't even know how to find Facebook on their phone.
Her fame even recently led to an appearance on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, where she battled Questlove, the famous drummer of The Roots. And just when you thought this grandma couldn't get any cooler...
I've never taken a ride in one of these things before.
They're so fun.
There's her other hobby. Driving slingshots. And get this, the company Slingshot sent her this 2022 vehicle for her to use for several months for free, as long as she posts about it on Instagram. What do you like more, driving these or drumming?
Drumming.
Clearly, Dorothea marches and hopes to continue marching to the beat of her own drum.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. And she says the idle lifestyle of many people her age just isn't for her.
I don't want to just give up and just be sitting all day long, watching TV or whatever.
Dorothea's fame even caught the attention of legendary actor Jamie Lee Curtis. She now teaches Curtis virtual one-on-one drum lessons.
I mean, how cool is she?
That was awesome.
Do you have any musical talents, Rachel Coulter?
You know, one time I played the piano for a little bit, but
Okay.
it's been a solid 10 years maybe since I played. What about you?
Do you think you could get 1 million followers on TikTok with your piano skills?
Absolutely not.
I think
Absolutely
you could. I do think you could get 1 million followers on TikTok for your weather forecasting skills. Though.
Hey,
I
maybe.
really do.
I appreciate that.
You're
I
so
appreciate
good
the
at it.
confidence.
Glad that you're joining us again on Carolina News Now,
Always.
because the weekend is here. It is arriving, and it's going to be warm.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Just an alert here. You know, we're based out of Charlotte right now, and we sent a little alert on our First Alert weather app, and it was just, you know, if you've got weekend plans, this is a great looking forecast. We love talking about forecasts like this, especially when you've got 80s and mostly sunny skies, dry conditions landing on the weekend. So that's going to be the case across the region, whether you're listening in from the mountains to the coast.
That was my second question. How's the coast looking? Because I hear that, and I want to go to the beach.
Well, I've got your forecast. I'm going to zoom into different zones across the Carolinas to let you know what you can expect as we approach your Friday, heading into your Saturday as well. I'm not too sure what I just did. I said I was going to zoom in, and then I went to a tower camera. So we're gonna look at Rock Hill. This is going to be a fun game because I don't know where my controller just put us. So we're just going to see what happens. But that's what we're seeing right now out of Rock Hill. You can see that we had clouds earlier today. That's no longer the case. This is going to be a common view through the weekend. Of course, we're going to be tracking these warm afternoons Friday through the weekend. The rain chances do look to hold off until we get to next Tuesday. And when we say warm afternoons, we're talking about highs in the 80s, and that's going to be the case Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and for most of the region as well. Of course, a little bit cooler, upper 60s to 70s for our mountain communities. And I think, Maddie, the best chance of seeing maybe a sprinkle this weekend, and that's namely going to be Friday. That'll be for our mountain communities.
Gotcha.
But once we get towards the coast, 70s, 80s, all of us dry, all of us seeing a mix of sun and clouds as that ridge of high pressure builds overhead. And so fortunately, the cold front that's going to bring our next rain chances really does look to hold off until next week. So very comfortable forecast ahead for the Carolinas this weekend.
I love that, Rachel. Thanks for giving us a heads up on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on to Carolina News Now. Thank you guys for joining us. We are here every week getting you caught up on the top stories from both North and South Carolina, powered by television stations in both states, and we always have your regional weather forecast for the Carolinas as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.